whatever questions you have, type your questions in and I'll answer them. They'll be put into the queue. We only have technically about 8 minutes or so left in the course. Johnny's asking about velocity and Jay Miller's asking about a quick review of track stacks. Yeah, you guys have a project that you'll get tomorrow, or that you already are doing, that you're working on those track stacks. So let me quickly talk about velocity. I'm going to double click on this region that I imported in. And what you're seeing in the piano roll editor is you're getting information about the velocity of every note that's played in this particular region. The velocity is symbolized, if you will, by the colors of the MIDI events and the actual little line that's in here. If you mouse over a MIDI event, it will tell you the velocity of that event. Now, if you want to change the velocity of an event, which I didn't, I kind of skipped across that because I was rushing, but you would go to the edit tools here and you could choose the velocity tool. Now, once you select the velocity tool, if you click on a note and drag up or down, you will change the velocity. By default, Logic will continually trigger that note so you can hear what the different velocity settings would sound like with that particular note. So I can drag it all the way up or all the way down. You can also drag multiple notes, drag across multiple notes. Oh, let me turn time handles off. Drag across multiple notes like that, and then click and drag, and it will change them together. But they're relative to one another. In other words, if I select this one and set the velocity all the way up to 124, which means 127 is max. So 124, let's do 124, means that there are only 3 more velocity levels I can go to the max of this one. So if I select it and 2 others above it, or any others, if I want to turn the velocity up of these events, I can only go up 3 because this one is already at 124. So if you look at this one, it's at 73. If I drag up, it goes to 76, and I can't go any higher because it's maxed out. Now, if I hold down Option, I can go past that and max them all out. And that works the same way going in the opposite direction. Another thing you could use is something called the MIDI Draw, which I had hoped to get into. If I click on the MIDI Draw, you get these little nodes with lines beneath them, and those lines are associated with all of the different MIDI events. The node allows you to adjust the velocity for a specific note. So say, for instance, if I select this note, you see that this node right here lights up. If I click and drag this down, the velocity of that note changes. I can't move these left or right, only up and down to change velocity. So that's another way you can change velocity. And in here, you can create something called I can click and hold and draw this line across. See that little green line? When I let it go, all of those nodes are going to kind of be like a magnet to this line and allow me to kind of create a crescendo here. And now the velocity just continuously goes up. If I play it, miss this first note. Right? So that's just clicking and holding there in the MIDI Draw. Track stacks. Let me quickly kind of get to track stacks. I'm going to use the library to open up my user patches. Let's open up the first one. So track stack is basically, let's move these out of the track stack. So they take things out. I'm just dragging them up above that top track stack lane, and now the track stack is gone. So if I start with 2 or more tracks, first you have to select one of them, usually the top or the lowest one on that you want to add. So if I select this, you can actually skip around by holding down Command to add different tracks. But if I start with this one at the bottom, hold Shift and select, let's just do these 3. To put them in a track stack, I can go to Track, Create Track Stacks, or the shortcut is Shift Command D. Then you need to choose what type of track stack you want. Today we just talked about summing track stacks. We'll talk more about folders when we get into mixing. And when I say create, it takes all 3 of those tracks and it puts them into, as you can see, this track stack, which is an auxiliary track. And you can see it kind of has this light gray area that shows you that it's encompassing all 3 of these tracks. Yeah, they are now in a track stack. Now, by default, they're just layered. So if I click up here and play, it plays them all together as a layered synth, if you will. What I did later was select each one of these individually and change their key range to create a split synth. So if I switch to this one, let me go here, user patches, split synth. And in the split synth, now when I play at one part of the keyboard I have assigned to one sound, you notice only this one is playing. If I go down below, then I have the strings, which is just this one. So that's kind of how that works. Let's see. Any other questions? It's really great. Truly appreciate it. Oh, no problem, Andre. I appreciate you being here. Definitely will help you on your projects. Yes, to my students. Question is about, I think you're talking about when I use the brush. So let me go back to this Beat Machine track. I'm going to create an empty region on this track and go into the piano roll editor. First, maybe I should make this big. Command 4. First thing I did was change my tool to the brush tool, right? And once it's on the brush tool will actually draw in notes to the grid. So if I just click here and drag, it'll just draw in notes to the grid like that, right? Let's just do a kick here. So we can hear it, right? It's just drawing those notes in. Now, how the value that is drawing those notes in is based on this right here where it says time quantize in your piano roll editor. I need to set that to whatever value. So if I want eighth notes, I select eighth notes there. And then if I go here and drag, it creates eighth notes, right? If I want 30-second notes, I select 30-second notes here and then just drag across and it'll create that. Now, as you're dragging, you'll see, again, as you move your mouse up and down, it'll just create it across different lanes. But if you start dragging and then hold shift, as I drag up and down, it won't do that, but it will change velocity as you go across. All right. Hope that answered that question. Okay, guys, if there are no other questions, I'm way over time at this point. Actually, not too bad over time, just about 3 minutes. I appreciate you guys showing up today. And those of you who are my students, I will see you tomorrow. Have your project ready. This should help you if you haven't finished a project. Everyone else who's here, I'll see you guys next week. And thanks.